All right, let's go ahead. Are we broadcasting? Are we live? Okay. We will go ahead and call the November 18th regular meeting of Chambly's Downtown Development Authority to order. Looks like we are missing Seth and Matt. We understand Jenna is running late, but we do expect to have her join us shortly. But we do have a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started with our meeting. First thing, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind us. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the regular meeting on October 28th? Any revisions, corrections?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Downtown Development Authority regular meeting minutes for October 28th, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Chair's report. It seems like a lot of it is within the new business and the old business tonight. Would like to mention that the city center project did go before the city council work session on Thursday. There was significant discussion upon the presented plans at that time. I believe that I know that they have requested deferral, so I don't believe that they will be on tonight's agenda with City Council, but will be a part of the agenda for the December meetings for City Council.
And they already have a few meetings scheduled very soon.
So, right, I think they're going to spend the next month meeting with council and other stakeholders to discuss revisions to plans and hope to have revised plans to present to council at that time. So I still think they've got fairly good plans, but there were some areas that council saw some deficits that can be addressed. So I believe that's occurring. So
Was it, I did not watch the meeting, was it limited to the lack of pedestrian friendly, or were there other items?
there were a number of other items. I think Jimmy's concerns had especially to do with the driveway that was in the middle of the property, that divides the property. There were a number of concerns, I think, expressed, and some areas for improvement. And, it's the largest project or most complicated project that I think the city of Chambly has ever, reviewed. And so the fact that they had 64 waivers or something and a number of variances involved, there's just a lot of moving pieces. I think they've got 8 different buildings, six different buildings, I think, on the property, and virtually all of those buildings are publicly accessible on all 4 sides. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of things, how that project lands. But generally, it does seem like what the messages that I've gotten from the developer side are that they think the concerns are manageable, so I don't, it seems like it's moving forward. So I'm not really concerned about the overall project. It just needs some massaging. Sure.
There was some talk about the number of variances, and like he kind of stated, there was a number of buildings, all of them with frontage, road frontage, 4 sides. The UDO hasn't changed significantly since 2019, and we've had numerous projects that did not have 70-something variances and waivers So it's not necessarily an indictment of the UDO that it was that high. It's just a very unique project with a green publicly accessible space in the middle, 4 exterior roads. It was very, the code did not contemplate a lot of those specifics of this particular site. So,
Right. That was my impression as well. So lots of moving pieces, but I think they'll get there. I still anticipate, the overall schedule of the project, this might push it back slightly. I think they'd previously been talking about closing on our property. What they have to do is once they get zoning approval of the project, then they have to prepare some preliminary engineering plans. Once they get their land disturbance permit, which is sort of their first permit to get the project in line for development, once they have that permit, then they will close on the properties. They had been talking about that like May, June of 2026. This may push it back a month. Their outside closing date per the contract remains September of 2026, and that does not change. So it's still progressing, it's still happening, it's still positive. I think it's going to be a great project. This is just something that they just need to work out some details.
Are we privy to their financing? I have no doubt they have the financing lined up for the purchase, but what about the financing to start construction and actually put shovels in the ground? Do we privy to that?
We are not privy to that. What I do understand is that Greystar is the largest multifamily developer in the United States. They do a lot of these. They work with a lot of entities who put money up for similar projects.
publicly traded?
I do not know if they're publicly traded or not.
They're publicly traded, then
I would
their
imagine.
annual report would have a lot of that stuff, I'm
Yeah.
sure. They gotta be publicly traded.
But we know that they're out there on the market for financing on this project.
There
so-
has never been any doubt expressed in any of the meetings that I've been a part of that financing is an issue for them.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why they kind of rose to the top for us compared to some of the others.
Right.
But there's always the chance that they purchase the property and something falls through with their financing and they don't actually put shovels in the ground.
There is always, the purchase and sale agreement does have numerous portions of the document that address their construction timing and the requirements thereof. There is a repurchase provision. If they do not produce, if they do not produce a site within a given timeline, that the DDA would have the opportunity to repurchase that property or to force a repurchase of that property. But they've never expressed any doubt. They're ready to go.
Okay. Good. Great.
Certainly what I'm hearing from the retail side is that they're getting very positive response from the market, and a number of people are super interested in being there.
Which would make their job to get financing for the construction much easier.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think the reality is that the retail is a very small portion of the overall cost.
Right.
Right now, my understanding or my memory of preliminary conversations were that the overall project's in the neighborhood of $150 million. I would imagine that the retail is a relatively small portion of that.
Right.
Not insignificant, but you've also got the cost associated with the construction of the town green, the green space in the middle, which is not insignificant, so. No, by all measures, that project is proceeding, as quickly as they can, and they're very motivated to make it happen, so. All very positive things. Next item on the agenda is the financial report. Have any highlights for us, Jonathan?
The big highlight is our December 1st principal payment of $685,000 for our debt. We have the balance to cover it and the interest. I think, as everyone knows, we received our admin payments for SLX and Olmsted. And then I think Trackside is in the works, and the Lumen they've submitted, but we haven't reviewed yet. So all 4 of our admin payments are in process or have been received. Brian and I are going to sit down here soon in the next month to discuss kind of our longer term cash flow and determine with kind of, I guess the expected timing of the closing of the town center. We know that had a $12 million purchase price, which is coming to us at some point. I think it's coming later than we all initially anticipated, so we're going to just make sure we have the cash flow available to pay our debts as they come due. So we'll keep you guys posted on all that. Any questions?
I did want to note too, so typically the DDA in December of every year adopts the budget for the next year, so if you could also just loop me into those conversations as it relates to that as well.
Yeah, sounds great.
We will work towards having a budget for our next meeting. That's the goal. All right, next item on our agenda is old business. First item on the agenda is the second amendment to the purchase and sale agreement with Pierce Partnership. We have approved this previously, and so what we will need to do is retract the prior approval, or to rescind, I guess is the correct terminology, rescind the prior approval and approve the revised approval. There's a couple things that are significant, that have changed since we approved the second amendment, the prior second amendment. One of them is there were some additional costs, or as a part of the earlier version of the second amendment, there were costs for reimbursement for rental value for the tenant of their property who was disrupted when our agents removed the underground storage tanks. That period of disturbance went longer when they found an additional underground tank and had to go through the process to get that tank removed and the additional soils removed and take the additional testing and the other things associated with that. So as a part of this updated Second Amendment, the value of that credit has increased from, I think it was $6,500 under the prior. Under this one, it is $8,900 and $8,916. So it increased slightly to compensate the tenant for the additional time that their use of the property was limited. The other thing that is part of this revised amendment is a provision that the seller leave all facilities or all buildings within the properties in a safe condition. And this came out because I was informed that they're in the process of salvaging many or some of the historic architectural elements of the family home that sits on that property, which may include some of the windows or some of the doors. I understand that many of the windows are period windows that are wavy glass. So there may be some, and the flooring, they're removing the floor, some of the original hardwood flooring that dates to early periods. And so the provision within the revised Second Amendment is such to require them to leave the facility, or to leave all of their buildings in a safe condition. The intent is that we don't want to have to come in and stabilize any of the buildings once we take possession of the properties. We want just to be able to leave it boarded up and leave them as is until we sell the properties to Greystar, and all of those facilities are demolished as a part of Greystar's anticipated construction. So those are really the two big elements that have changed within that Second Amendment. Any questions on that? Okay. In your packet, we have draft language for the motions. The first would be a motion to rescind the approval of the prior version of the Second Amendment. The second motion would be to approve the revised Second Amendment. Discussion, motions?
One thing I just wanted to note for the second, approving the new version, from what I understand is that we're still waiting on the Pierce side for comments. They may not have any, but I did include wording in there, subject to finalizing.
Subject to finalizing. I do understand Larry, Mr. Pierce contacted me today, late yesterday, early today, asking if we had approved the higher valuation of payment to the current tenant, and I said we were going to be addressing that tonight. As sort of a part of the conversation, he said he had told his attorneys that it looked fine, so I do not anticipate, edits to those documents, but as you indicated, there's too many attorneys involved in the process, so it's possible, which I appreciate the flexibility in that second motion to give us some leeway to sign that final document. Questions or motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion on the Second Amendment to the Pierce PSA. First motion is to rescind approval of the version of the Second Amendment to the purchase agreement for real estate between the DDA as purchaser and Pierce Partnership, LLLP as seller. That was approved at the August 19th, 2025 DDA meeting.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously.
I have a second motion on the Second Amendment to Pierce PSA. Motion to approve, authorize, ratify, and confirm the entry of the DDA into the revised Second Amendment to the purchase agreement for real estate between the DDA as purchaser and Pierce Partnership, LLLP as seller, subject to finalizing changes agreed to by the chair in consultation with council, and to authorize the chair to execute related documents.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item B on the agenda for old business is not necessary. That was included by accident. There was, in the recent conversations with the Pierce Partnership, we had some suggested edits to their lease to their tenant, but the DDA is not a party to that lease, so there is no action for the DDA under that item. Item C is related to Geohydro Engineers, Inc. and Scott Hitch Law, LLC for the environmental work. This is related to the additional services that were conducted related to the environmental work and the removal of the underground storage tanks on the Pierce properties. It resulted in work that was beyond the initial scope that was approved by the DDA previously. The difference in the amount it's a revised total amount of no more than $224,605.54. This is roughly $64,000 greater than what had been previously approved. Questions, discussion on this item?
Are we done?
Yes. Just to provide a little bit of update, as of today, I saw the final report that is being submitted, or we anticipate will be submitted to the Georgia Department of Environmental Quality, requesting a finding of no action or no additional actions associated with that property, which would effectively mean that they found that property to be clean or to have met their standards. We believe that we have no reason to think, our attorneys have no reason to think that report will not be accepted based on the findings, but it will take some time for the state agency to act on that. But I know our bank associated with loaning us the money to purchase the Pierce property was very interested in getting that final report.
Do we have an estimated time for that report? Or
Several
like
months.
Months?
We should get it final, we should get it back from the state prior to our anticipated closing with the sale of the overall property to Greystar, but I don't know exactly what that timing is.
Tied to the issuance of the LDP, do you think that maybe if we don't have a clean report that they can't apply for an LDP? I'm just wondering, that seems like there might be another little part that, I know we're talking.
Yeah.
It seems like that just might, like they go, like, you can't start digging, we can't issue a thing, you start digging, because there might be something in there you shouldn't be digging in.
That is way outside my expertise, so I
Well, just
couldn't
something to anticipate as far as, budgets and anticipated payments and closing dates and all that.
I have heard no discussion of that, in all of the conversations that I've had and that I've participated in regarding that process. I've never heard any question about it postponing any of the LDP timing, but it may simply be that they anticipated it, being a formality at this point. So but I don't know. I can certainly ask that question.
It's roughly like a 35% increase on what we were expecting for that charge. Does that seem right, based on what was needed?
In
It's
that
about-
ballpark, that's right.
I was going to say, it's about 25,000 increase if you include the original GeoHydro proposal and then the 10% contingency
Okay.
that we budgeted or allocated for. So it's about 25,000 more than that.
And it really was, I think, this is work that I approved sort of on the fly when it was happening, simply because they had the equipment mobilized. It wouldn't need to be done no matter what, there was no scenario that wouldn't have to be taken out. But I think the additional costs were simply to have equipment on site for longer than anticipated, and to gain approvals, and to do some additional testing and remove additional soils. And yeah, not something I'm happy about, but surprise.
So that, the UST removal line item was not anticipated in the original quote, is what I'm gathering from this.
Yes, that's the additional, that's the,
53.
yeah, that's the
And then
cost,
kind of the ancillary costs on top of it.
right.
Okay, that makes sense.
If everyone, unless people have questions, there is a draft motion in the packet. If we could get a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to microphone. There we go. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the change order for Geo Hydro Engineers, Inc., proposal number 252229, PO, for the revised amount total of $224,605.54.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Under new business,
We have one more item under old business.
oh, yes, I'm sorry, D. I was paying attention. Item D is the Economic Development Strategic Assessment Visioning Session that I believe should be on everyone's calendar.
Yes.
Do you want to provide some additional detail, Ashley?
Yes, so I just included this as a reminder. I brought it up a couple months ago, and since then, we've selected a date. So this will be a joint visioning session with the City Council and the Downtown Development Authority, and this will kind of kick off the citywide economic development strategic assessment. So we haven't updated our strategic plan for economic development since 2017, so this whole process next year will kind of be more focused than a strategic plan. That's why we're calling it an assessment. It'll give us a 5-year action plan of things to focus on, and things like that. So essentially, this visioning session kind of kicks off that process for next year and kind of helps lead how that process will look. So that is scheduled for Wednesday, December 10th, and that is from 5 to 8 p.m. here at City Hall.
Okay. I think sort of covered under that umbrella, one of the things that I've been asking is a way for a venue for the council and DDA to discuss sort of the direction for the DDA, following the sale of our property to Greystar. We've spent a number of years focused on trying to make the city center project happen, assuming that everything happens as anticipated. That will no longer be occupying a significant portion of our time. And so I think we will all have the opportunity to think about where we would like to take the DDA and our focus and what we would like the DDA to be focusing on. So this is where I think we can coordinate with council to make sure that we're working towards council's vision of what they would like to see. But also, if there are things that individual DDA members would like to do, I would like to be in a situation to empower each and every one of us to, find an area of interest if you would like to pursue that and make something happen. So again, I think it's more about establishing the vision, establishing the direction that we would like to be going in coordination with the city. John, it looks like you were teeing up a comment.
I was. So a lot of times when you go into these meetings, if you just go like, what do you think we should do? People give the same answers over and over and over and over because that's the first thing. Like when we do the parks, everybody wants a dog park. Everybody wants this, a splash pad. It's just the same. What I'm going to challenge maybe Ashley and her staff is to maybe come up with like, here's something that somebody else did that maybe y'all didn't think about. Something a little bit outside the box, because maybe we don't know that we could get into that particular.
I've got a laundry list of ideas, but.
Well, share them with Ashley, and then we could see maybe how those were implemented in other areas. Because I'm a big fan of real-world examples instead of just making stuff up. So.
And to comment on that, one thing I failed to include in my analysis is that this will be led by Georgia Tech, Alan Durham with Georgia Tech, so the entire strategic assessment is going to be led by Georgia Tech, so he will also be leading that visioning session, but it is good timing that you bring that up because we do have meetings to talk about the logistics of what this visioning session will be, so happy to share with him as well.
And having sat through one of his presentations, I'm pretty aware of what he might say, but that's still, I would. Again, things that I wouldn't think of. That's what I want to hear from somebody. Not I can think of my own stuff,
Yeah.
right? Brian can think of his. Let's think of something that maybe some.
Sounds good.
Now we go on to new business. Thank you, Ashley, for the redirection. First item on the agenda is the Fraser Memorandum of Understanding. So what we had done previously was the general outline of our agreement with the Fraser project. The MOU provides the additional detail for that agreement. It is substantially similar to what had been previously discussed, a lot more words involved. But the basics of the project, it still contains 63 affordable housing units. It still provides for a $20 million net present value maximum for their tax incentive savings. Their tax savings is a part of that incentive. It still provides up to 20 years at a 90% savings with a 10% payment in lieu of taxes to the taxing entities and a 10% administrative fee. So in general, that is the format for that memorandum of understanding. This is also subject to final changes. The draft has been reviewed. I understand that we got some red lines back, or that our counsel, Dan McRae and his team, received comments back. They're in the process of incorporating those, and there may be some ongoing changes associated. So this motion is to authorize me to sign the MOU subject to finalized changes in consultation with council. So we do have a draft motion. If somebody would like to read that, or if there are additional questions, I'm more than happy to entertain discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve, authorize, ratify, and confirm the memorandum of understanding between the DDA and Windsor Stevens of the Fraser at Old Town Gordon, subject to finalizing changes agreed to by the chair in consultation with council, and authorize the chair to execute related documents.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item B under new business is the City Center Memorandum of Understanding. So what this is there are actually two memorandums of understanding, one for the retail and commercial portion of the project, one for the residential portion of the project, because there's going to be two bonds associated with that project, just the way those projects will be financed separately. In general, this aligns with the prior agreements with Greystar Vantage and the PSA. This one does not establish a bucket of credits as we have done in some others, but it does provide for a 90% savings for years 1 through 10, and then years 11 through 20, a 70% savings, a 20% payment in lieu of taxes, and a 10% administrative fee. So again, I think the city center MOU, I think both of these are the final documents. We're just working there. I do have to apologize because there have been a number of things sort of in the air, all doing much of the same thing the past couple weeks. We've got MOUs and bond documents for a number of different projects. So this one is ready to go. I believe both of these city center MOUs are final, and so we simply need the DDA to authorize me to sign those documents. There is a draft motion that I would entertain.
I'd like to ask a question. Has it been typical in the past abatements? I haven't followed the history of every one of them that we're approving the MOU before the project is approved by council? Because it would seem like that we could make some changes or request changes to the document as council that might affect the final version of the MOU. So I have a little hesitancy on this, or just at least from the question standpoint. Because I know this is the first time we've ever got the cart before the horse, so to speak.
And honestly, John, I don't have a good answer for you on that. I do know that the PSA does set a timeline for approving the documents, and I believe that timeline has to do with the end of the year, to have the bond documents approved, so we're tight on that.
I suspect you could condition approval on amending the existing MOU if it gets signed. That's not legal advice, but I suspect if you wanted to change something.
It's just because I don't pretend to have a professional opinion about that either. I just know that doesn't seem like that's typical. Is that?
I don't think it is typical, but I would also say that it's also not typical where the city is effectively a party to the agreement to construct the city center. Normally it's a much more hands-off relationship where we've got a clear line between the applicant and the DDA and the city's review. In this situation where the DDA and the city are in essence party to the project and proponents for the project in some respect, I don't know that it was anticipated or particularly considered when we wrote the PSA. So that may simply be an oversight in the PSA when it was written. I think everybody assumed it would have gone a little quicker. And it may be that the submission to the city slid a little bit, but while the timing of the MOU was not sliding with it. So we're in a little bit of a box, but I don't know the answer to your question, John. I think if you've got significant concerns, we do have a special called meeting for Monday. I think it would be possible.
I don't know if I'm uncomfortable enough to throw a monkey wrench into the whole process, but I'm also just kind of wanted to voice my concern about that and how it's a little irregular. But that's if we want to, the rest of the DDA wants to move on. I'm not trying to derail this.
I think it's a very valid concern, so I'm open to discussion.
I could be comfortable with it after you talk to council. Just authorize you to talk to council and make the decision.
So would that be like a friendly amendment to the motion? Is that in there? Well, I mean, if we were, we have a draft language.
We have draft language.
And he has something he just said. Would that be added to the draft?
I think it'd be similar to what we've done previously tonight,
I think-
subject to any changes. that
John,
the
if
chair-
you want to read that motion and interject language, I think we could, I'll put you on the spot for that.
Yes.
All right, unless there's other comments. All right, I'll make a motion to approve, authorize, ratify, and confirm the memorandum of understanding between the DDA and Gray Star Development East LLC for the City Center project, and authorize the chair, subject to finalizing changes agreed to by the chair in consultation with council, if any, and authorize the chair to execute related documents.
Okay, very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously.
I saw a head nod, so, out in the audience, so it looked like we did it right, did we? Still nodding?
All right. What? There's another meeting on Monday? Yes, I'll get to that. That's related to the next item on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is the bond resolution for the purchase of the Pierce properties. And so again, this is where the DDA is borrowing money from, in the form of a revenue bond, to purchase the two properties from the Pierce Partnership. That process is the bond resolution, which will then go into, once we have the bond resolution, we can finalize the bond documents, which then will need to be validated in court and prior to closing. So we're on a sort of a pretty tight timeline on this, which is why we've got one of Dan's assistance in the process to get our signatures on this bond resolution. And then we do have am I completely, no, this is the bond resolution for the Pierce properties. Okay, so it's two different things. So I'm mixing apples and oranges. Mixing projects, they're all running together in my mind, and I apologize for this. So this is the bond validation documents for the Pierce properties. We've already done the resolution, or we've already done the MOU for the Pierce. No, there was no MOU for that. That's why I'm getting confused. I keep trying to add in an MOU in this process. So this is the bond resolution for the Pierce properties, and this is the resolution that will then be validated in court by Dan and his team. That validation will happen either on the 8th, 9th, or 10th. Currently, the closing on the Pierce properties is scheduled for the 11th. Contractually, it has to take place prior to the 15th or by the 15th, according to our purchase and sale agreement with the Pierce Partnership. So this is simply authorizing the DDA to borrow money, is really what it comes down to. There is a draft resolution in your packet if somebody would like to read that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve, authorize, ratify, and confirm the bond resolution providing for the issuance of the taxable revenue bond for the City Center Project Series 2025 in a maximum aggregate principal amount of $4,515,000 and authorize the chair to execute related documents.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. And the final item under new business is the administrative payment for the trackside project. Here we have received Dan McCray and his team has received the annual report, reviewed the documents. I think there's no questions on that. The administrative payment in an amount of $37,046.47 has been approved as a part of that review process. Do I have a motion or any discussion?
I'll just add that we budgeted $32,000 for this payment, so it's on the good side of the budget.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2025 administrative payment for Trackside Partners LLC at 1570 Peachtree Road in the amount of $37,046.47.
I would like to make a minor correction. The address is 5170 Peachtree Road.
Did I say that wrong?
You transposed two of those numbers.
I didn't have my glasses on, I apologize. I was trying to one-eye it.
Do I have a second on that motion? All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. The special called meeting on Monday is not an action item for the DDA, so it's not on the agenda. This will be for the bond resolution for the city center bonds, to keep those on track to close prior to the end of the year. So it's really, those are the next steps after.
So we don't need to be in attendance.
We do not need to be in attendance live. That will be a virtual meeting. I think we had a couple people indicate that, 2 people indicated that Monday was much better. I think that meant that John may not be able to attend the. I can do virtual. Okay. You couldn't do in person. Right now, 2 people indicated that 4:30 was a better time. Does that work for everybody? Okay, we will have a virtual meeting at 4:30 on Monday. Would you please, Ashley, would you please issue the notice as required?
Yes, and then one point of clarification, is the city center bond resolution the only anticipated item for this meeting?
Let's add the Fraser MOU, or let's add the Fraser project to that as well. Let's circle back tomorrow to confirm exactly what needs to be on it. But I believe that we will have a acceptable MOU by Monday, and Rod would probably be ecstatic if we could address it at our special called meeting. So that might mean that you get less phone calls.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we would need to confirm and just make sure if there is a motion necessary, since you all made a motion tonight.
Okay. Yeah, it may be that it's a moot point, since you already gave me
But we
the
can check on that.
flexibility. Okay, that's it. Would you like to make a public comment, Aaron, as the only public in attendance? We have no executive session, need for an executive session for this evening, so I think the final item on our agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second? We have a second. All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate all your hard work.